Hello, everyone. I'm Penny Miller-Nelson, and welcome to Max Loves Midland.
Welcome back to the Max Loves Midland show. I'm your weekly tour guide, Kevin LeDuc, and this is a really interesting episode today because today we're going to talk public schools, and I know there's a lot going on with Midland Public Schools right now, and I feel like a true late-night show host because quite often when you turn on those late-night shows, they'll have these big celebrities in there that are currently on these road shows, and I like to say that you are currently on the Bond Proposal Roadshow, Penny. So
I do feel that way.
So how many stops is this on the tour so far?
Yeah, I think we are approaching 50 presentations and conversations with our community about this important proposal.
Absolutely amazing. So when we're talking about the facility improvement bond proposal that Midland Public Schools currently has out there into the world, and everyone is kind of talking about it, and there's a lot of conversation around that. Can you kind of give me the roadmap of what it's been like for you guys to approach the public and have these conversations with them?
Yeah, I would love to. This actually started more than 2 years ago, Kevin. We did a very thorough facility assessment process with an independent third party. They're experts in school facilities. We walked every single one of our schools, our staff, along with these experts to really understand the status of our schools. That data really guided the next steps of the process, which included the Board of Education and administration. We sent out to our community some ideas for feedback, and you might remember that moment in time. And that was a really important part of this process to get a pulse of what our community really envisioned and could support for a bond proposal. All of that is what led us to this moment to share this particular facilities improvement proposal with our community.
There's definitely been a lot of conversations that have been going on, and you've kind of been in just about every single room and every different place, and not just talking to supporters, but really talking to everyone and just allowing voices to be heard and listening and having those back and forth conversations. And have you learned anything about civic engagement through this?
Yeah, this has been a really lovely process, I think. We have had an opportunity. When I say we, it's my admin team along with those 7 board members who have been in this since the start. And we have really had a chance to engage with the community. In addition to these individual civic organizations who've welcomed us in to share information, we've also hosted just open community sessions. And to your point, some of those citizens who attended those sessions were not yet in favor of this proposal. And we had a chance to answer all their questions, to help them understand the data and evidence we have. And while they still might have left that engagement not fully in support, we feel good that they have the factual information they need to make their best decision. And those board members right there alongside us, answering questions and engaging with the community.
Regardless of outcomes, and we're going to know the outcome of this proposal here in about a month from now, but regardless of outcomes, I think it's cool to be able to look back on it and just say that this much voice was put into it from all different sectors of the community. And I've seen people that, online that are not supporters of this specific proposal still say there's so much information on Midland Public Schools website and you can learn so much about this proposal. So I think there's a lot out there about it.
Yeah, thanks for that. We've worked really hard to share information, to be absolutely transparent. We have all of the source documents on our website and keep pushing people who want to dig deeper to take a look at those.
So we're talking about all this work that's going into this. I think the most important question is, how are you sleeping right now? I mean, like, what is life like for you from the day to day?
I have shared this journey is equal parts exhausting and exhilarating. There is nothing like engaging with the community the way that we have. And I have met so many amazing people, have had a chance to really just dig in and listen to what people want and expect from their public school, good, bad, and otherwise. And you just can't put a price tag on this. I would keep doing this for as long as needed.
And you are really early into your tenure as superintendent here with Midland Public Schools, but you've been in the education sphere for quite some time. So what does your personal roadmap look like to get to where you're at right now?
Yeah, I started my career as a teacher, a high school agri-science teacher and FFA advisor. And we might know here in our community that we have, through our CTE consortium, through the ESA, we have access, Midland Public School students have access to an agri-science program out at Coleman. And so when that program started, I couldn't have been happier as a former agri-science teacher and FFA advisor. So that was my humble beginnings, was being a high school teacher. It was such a joyful experience. I was in Bertrand at the time. and then had an opportunity to move to the City of Saginaw schools where I worked at the Career Center there. So career in tech ed has always been just part of my journey, part of my passion. Then in 2008, I was welcomed here to Midland Public Schools and have held a variety of different roles in my time here. And obviously, most recently as superintendent, and I'm just thrilled to lead our school community.
Well, and long before you ever even got into this sphere or into your career, I think it's really interesting that you went into agri-science in terms of teaching because you grew up in a space where that was a big part of your life when you were younger.
Yeah, absolutely. I grew up on a dairy farm in West Branch, just north of here, was myself a student in an agri-science program, was officer in my local FFA chapter. It was a really formative part of my youth. And all of my siblings were engaged in that as well. My family has a real legacy and history in agriculture and in educating our community about the importance of agriculture. So it was sort of a natural progression for me. Very thankful for that upbringing.
A lot of people will refer to Midland as a small town.
Yeah.
Or a very big small town, where I like to think it's a small big town, in my opinion, because you and I are both from smaller communities, and Midland was more of a destination for me growing up. Did you have any sort of impression of Midland when you were younger before you ever worked in this community?
You know, I didn't. As a young person, we didn't leave West Branch often. There was a Kmart in town, and that's where we got our school clothes and general supplies and a grocery store. Our trips to the big city would have been to just head over to Bay City for a bit. We never really came toward Midland. And it wasn't until I really moved to the Great Lakes Bay region and had that job in Bertrand and then in Saginaw that I came to understand what a gem Midland was. And my family and I chose to move here before I actually had a job at Midland Public Schools. We lived here in Midland while I worked in Saginaw.
Regardless, we're so blessed to be able to talk about these spaces in Michigan with, we live in such an awesome place here in Midland, but the places that you and I are from too, like small towns with a lot of pride and a lot of heart.
Yeah.
How does you think that shapes you as a leader within this position?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there is this place of wanting to make sure that wherever I am and wherever my family is residing, that we are actively engaged and that we make it our home. I still feel like West Branch is obviously my hometown where I grew up, but I find myself now saying when someone asks, what's your hometown? I say Midland because we've been here for so long and it's where I raised my daughter and it just feels very connected. I think there is something special that you carry forward when you have experiences across communities, each time trying to take what you've learned and what you've gained and what you've contributed to that community and paying it forward to the next.
I got to get back up to West Branch. I told you when you and I talked, I did some stints DJing at Loggers in West Branch, which is just absolutely bizarre there in downtown. So I think we need to head back up there and check it out a little bit.
We should. I think I knew of that establishment before it was called Loggers.
Oh, yeah. It's definitely had a few different lives up there.
Yes,
so
it's a fun place.
And after high school, what did your educational journey look like?
Yeah. So again, graduated from Ogama Heights. And interestingly, it's a consolidated school. Rose City, West Branch consolidated into Ogama Heights back in the late 60s.
That was one of the big schools.
It was.
When we'd go play them in baseball, I'd be like, great, we got to go play this big school.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. My family farm is actually just, a mile over from where that high school is. So I'm very familiar with that part of our community. I actually went to CMU. I was one of those students who in high school was not at the top of my class, but I held my own academically. And there was just this expectation that you would go off to college. CMU was very attainable for me. It felt close to home. It certainly also felt like a place where I could go create my own path because my older sister was down at Michigan State. So I went to CMU, had a great time, learned a lot also, but realized it wasn't the place for me and had this moment where I visited my older sister, Peggy, at Michigan State. I met some really influential folks, including a professor by the name of Dr. Randy Showerman. He said, "Oh, you want to be a teacher? I think you actually want to be an agri-science teacher." Of course I do. And off I went to Michigan State, where I finished my bachelor's and my master's, both in my content area, and, have a lot of pride in being a Spartan.
And you're still a Spartan. Are you pursuing your doctoral degree right now?
Yeah. That's kind of a funny story. I love learning and, was sort of missing a hobby. couldn't really find something that
And you
I
have
wanted.
all this time on your hands, of course, Penny.
Well, it started before I knew I had this opportunity to serve as the superintendent. So I thought, what a great way to advance my knowledge and skill, to build a network of other educators from around our state. I'm going to jump in. So I did. And then this amazing opportunity to serve as superintendent came. And, I'm not a quitter. So I just have really managed my time well, balancing my family, my job, which I care deeply about, and this program. And I'm looking forward to finishing it within the next year or so.
You mentioned family, and I know that you personally are Spartan strong, but
I am.
I know there's a little bit of rivalry.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe not necessarily underneath the roof of the house anymore because your daughter lives in Ann Arbor and
She
goes to that
does.
other school with maize and blue colors attached to them. So how was that transition? I mean, just as a parent even.
I couldn't be more proud that she has found her path forward that is just a perfect fit for her. Going to the University of Michigan is exactly where she was meant to be. And we often joke, even here at Midland Public Schools, where one of our high schools is blue and gold and the other is green and gold, not green and white necessarily, but still green, that we've just taken that and carried it forward in our family. And she's doing great. Midland Public Schools prepared her so well to be successful at the university level. She was an IB diploma student. That was such an amazing, enriching experience for her. And not just the knowledge she gained, but the ways of knowing and thinking and interacting with other people has really helped her be successful. Super proud of her. And I do own a shirt that says, yes, Michigan Mom, and I have worn it.
Well, and despite what people would think, it goes much beyond a football rivalry
It
or a
does.
basketball
It
rivalry.
does. It
So
does.
a lot of merits to both schools.
Absolutely.
And Ann Arbor and East Lansing are both just incredible
They
cities
are.
within our
They
state
are.
and just awesome walkable areas.
Yes.
And I can imagine she's having a great time in Ann
She
Arbor.
is. We enjoy visiting Ann Arbor as well.
So, I mean, you're not always visiting Ann Arbor, though. You kind of got this house now, and she's gone, and
Yeah.
it's just you and your husband. So,
Yeah.
where can we find you guys at Midland, or what type of activities do you guys enjoy here around town?
So to tell you the truth, it's interesting. Craig, my husband, and I are both actually rather introverted people. So we love living in Midland.
Well, welcome to the show. We're so glad to have you. It's what every host wants to hear.
Exactly. We really enjoy a portion of our weekends to just be home together with our dog, Cooper, and just, have that quiet restoration time that we need before heading back out into the work world. When we do venture out, which we do, we really love Midland. We love to hit the trails out at City Forest. We really enjoy all the scene of downtown Midland. I was sharing before, we had a great time at River Days this past year, and just really walking around, downtown Midland and any place in Midland, City Center, anywhere. There's just always something to do, something to see, beautiful shops, great places to eat, and lovely people to meet and engage with.
A lot of cool plans coming together.
Yeah.
And even as we talk right now, there's tons of work going on in that pedestrian bridge. I don't know
Yes.
if we're going to call it the Pridge or what we're going to refer to it as.
I hadn't heard that yet. Okay.
Hey, it could happen. So we'll see
Is
what
this
happens.
your attempt
So
to name it? Okay.
not mine at all.
Okay,
So
okay.
hey, I'm out of this one. So, but I don't know what it's going to be named yet. But we're excited for that. And there's just always something cool happening in Midland,
is.
and always some investment in people that really care about our community and how that beautification can lead to really engaged community members that love their place. And that's what we're really excited about here. And I've heard you within our conversation already reference IB once, and I know that you talk about the IB learner profile quite
Yeah.
often in your work. What does that mean to you, and what have you learned from that?
I love that question. So yes, part of the International Baccalaureate program, which we also have in our elementary buildings, part of that is really anchored in these core attributes, these attributes that we want our students to embrace, to learn, to practice over time, and quite frankly, the adults in the system too.
course.
And these are attributes that, again, really support deep learning. They support being a citizen of the world and just being a good human. These are attributes like being a risk taker, being open-minded, which is one of my favorites, being knowledgeable, being caring, being balanced. And I embrace those. And actually, through my interview process for this role as superintendent, I really tried to weave in those attributes and help our school board and community understand how I embrace those in my everyday work and want to promote those across our school system.
That's awesome. And I'm sure that really just uplifts your profile as an educator and assists you along with your work. And we're going to do a little bit of education today.
Okay, great.
We're going to get down to it. We got to talk about the bond proposal, and we're going to learn a little bit more about it. So as we're conversating today, we have some slides that we can put up in front of us here, and we can kind of guide the audience through those. So if we need to make any specific call outs to those, I know Josh here is producing our show, and he's going to do a great job with that. And he also produced some videos for you guys at Midland Public Schools as well. And we're just trying to inform our community and let them know what's going on through this proposal.
Terrific.
So we've already talked a little bit about the process, but there's very specific things in this proposal that are addressing specific challenges. So I want to know, why now? Like, why are we doing this right now? And I think that's a question I've seen quite a few times is, why is this the time for this particular proposal?
It's a great question. And, not to sound cliche, but there is no better time to do the best we can do for our students and our staff. There are some conditions and trends that we're facing right now as a community that really position this particular proposal to be the ideal path forward for us. And I'll just give you a few highlights of those. The first is the fact that we do have aging facilities. And one of the facts that I've really been working hard to make sure that our community understands is it isn't just that a building is getting old. It's a combination of the building is aging. It's reaching a point where we really need to assess the status of the infrastructure of that building and make a determination whether it is financially responsible to invest in that building. So millions of dollars put into a building that won't have a long life after is not money well spent. And we have this extra layer of care because we are working with taxpayer funds. So we have aging buildings. 64 is that number our community's been hearing. That is the average age of our school buildings. And that includes our newest build, which is Central Park, which was brought online in 2017. We do have two schools that are at or near end of life. Carpenter Elementary, which is home to the pre-primary center, our preschool programs, is 99 years old. And that is the perfect case of older building. Any investment is not the best use of our resources. It's time for that building to come offline and for us to find another solution. Northeast Middle School is in a very similar situation. It has a little bit of life left in it. You'll see through our proposal that we're proposing to the community that building stay online for another 8 years. And again, it's just in that condition where any investment, the significance of that investment, we won't see the return on that. So it is a more responsible decision to replace that building. So aging facilities is absolutely one of those trends. Do you want me to keep going?
Well, I think with aging facilities, though, I do have a follow-up question. I think that's one of the things I see quite often in conversations about this particular proposal is, can we just fix this stuff? Or can we address these challenges now? Is there maintenance that can be done? And what does that look like? And when people see the dollar amounts that go into this proposal, I think it's that sticker shock item of grasping for, what can be done otherwise and what are those alternatives?
That's a great point to bring up. And you mentioned the word maintenance. We have maintained both of these schools that I mentioned to the best of our ability. We continue to spend the appropriate dollars, time, energy, and resources to keep those learning conditions and that school environment the best it can be. But we're at this critical point, particularly when we think about our heating and cooling systems and our air management systems and our plumbing systems. Frankly, our maintenance department is spending a disproportionate amount of time attending to those two schools. And when we think about the energy efficiency that we can realize through new construction, there is a huge cost savings there as well.
And so what would be the two solutions then, or what are the solutions that are wrapped up in this proposal in terms of new facilities?
So the first is to take our preschool programs out of the pre-primary center, Carpenter Elementary, and we will move those out into other elementary schools. There's a lot of benefits that can come to this. Preschool is actually one of the trends that our board really thought about. Our state is moving toward preschool for all. We want every 4-year-old to be in a high-quality preschool program here in our community. We are already very good at that here in Midland, and there are several teams of community leaders and preschool providers who are organizing and planning in this direction. We want to continue to be part of that solution for our community and to do that in partnership with the other community-based organizations. So moving those preschool programs out into the elementary allows them to be in spaces that are just better designed, more appropriate, and frankly, in a school community where those children will likely remain through their elementary years. And our community has such a beautiful focus on creating this sense of belonging and wanting to really truly be a community. We embrace that at the school level as well. So if we can bring those children and families in as a 4-year-old and have them exist in that school community and really immerse themselves in that all the way through 5th grade, we think everyone really benefits from that.
You have quite an engaged group of preschool teachers here in town as
We
well.
do.
And I know they're very tight-knit and they care about one another and
Oh,
they
they
care about
do.
their space in Carpenter. So as they go out into the other schools, how will Midland Public Schools look at ways to integrate them into those staffs and really accept them with open arms?
Yeah, I love that question because it is something that we really want to attend to well. We want to make sure that our preschool staff still feel valued and supported, and we will put a very detailed plan in place for that transition. And of course, work with the staff at those schools who will be welcoming these new team members to make sure that they are fully embraced and welcomed as well.
And it's a huge focus of our community to try and get some preschool under everyone's belts. And we understand that there is study after study that takes into account if somebody has high quality preschool, that leads to a lot of academic success later on in life or later on within their, their schooling. But I am curious, as we move these preschools around a little bit, I know there's a lot of hoops to jump through at kind of a governance level for support.
Yeah.
What type of plans are in place to make sure that those are effectively accomplished, or those schools are effectively, or those preschools are effectively integrated into these elementary schools?
So from a very practical perspective, the bond proposal and the bond application that we have submitted to the State Department of Treasury includes work to be done in each of those elementary schools to renovate classroom space to make it appropriate for our youngest learners. To your point, there is a tremendous amount of licensing and regulation with preschool programming, and we're well prepared to ensure that we meet all of those standards in each of those locations. We have a great preschool director, principal at the Carpenter Street, and Melissa, and I know that she'll continue to lead us through that process.
Yeah, there's so much to go into it. I couldn't even get it out of my
Yeah.
mouth there asking that question.
Yeah,
There's
it's a
just
lot.
all this regulation around preschool, I know specifically. So I know that's at the heart of this proposal as well.
It is.
So what are some of the other challenges that this particular proposal is addressing?
So several. One of them, I guess, to stay on this note of elementary just for a minute, is really some constraints we have right now, some limitations with space. We have utilization rates in our elementaries that are quite high. We need more space. So right now, what we're experiencing, just to paint a bit of a picture for you, let's take Woodcrest, for example. Woodcrest Elementary is a lovely school. We have great teachers and families and students there. They are full. Their utilization rate is above 100%. This means that we have art teachers, world language teachers, these teachers who teach what we call specials, because they are very special classes, from a cart. They don't have a defined classroom. We have interventions that are happening in hallways and sort of makeshift spaces. If you walk into the media center at Woodcrest, they have taken the back part of that media center library and sort of partitioned it off with some whiteboards, trying to make a little bit of a private space for students to have academic tutoring and interventions. We're just really out of space, and we need to make space for preschools to be moved out. We also need to make some additional space for our partnership with the Midland County Educational Service Agency, the ESA. We have such a great partnership with them. I think our community maybe doesn't understand the nature of this partnership, and it's so beautiful. So the ESA hires staff, teachers and support staff who are experts at providing special education services. And these are extra special education services for students who have really pretty profound needs. And those programs are housed at Midland Public School buildings. So they're Midland Public School students served by ESA exceptional staff housed at Midland Public Schools. And part of why we love this partnership is this puts students together in a school community, there's that word again, with all of these amazing children together, really building understanding, empathy, perspective, engaging together in cafeterias and on playgrounds. And these are the kind of environments we want for all of our children. So we need to keep finding space for these programs. And again, we're out. So we need more space.
And I know that like those interventions happening in hallways
Yeah.
and other places, what kind of effect can that have on a learner?
Yeah, I think there is a certain level of dignity we want to provide to students when they're receiving specialized support, tutoring, interventions. And not only that, there is a focus and intensity that needs to happen during that intervention time. Uh, our support staff are doing great work, so I don't want to minimize the fact that they are doing good work. We're seeing gains with students. But when you walk down a hallway and you see a teacher huddled up at a little table trying to work with a child, well, another class is going down the hallway, even if they're on their best behavior and not making commotion, it still is distracting during that time where you really want that child to be very focused and very intentional on what they're doing.
And I know that a lot of our neighborhoods have changed, and then that's going to change enrollment trends too. So how is this going to adjust? Maybe if you look at north of town, I know we have a lot of students out in
We
that
do.
area. How does this proposal affect that area?
Yeah, so right now, north of US 10, we have 600 elementary age students, 1,500 total school age students. But when we think really about those elementary students, and that's where we have some need for space, this proposal of building a new elementary north of town will help resolve this. We'll take 500 to 600 students. They will go to this new school that will be built north of town. Then we will smooth enrollment across those remaining schools. We have run the numbers. We know that this will create enough open classrooms that our teachers can all have a defined classroom. We'll have appropriate space for interventions. We'll be able to maintain appropriate class sizes, the student to teacher ratio, and we'll be able to have room for our special education programs. The thing that will come with this, though, is that we will have to adjust school boundaries among those elementary schools. It will be important for us to think really intentionally about how we do that, thinking about neighborhoods and how we try to maintain neighborhoods as much as possible to stay in a particular elementary school community. There's software that's much more sophisticated that can mock up these scenarios when the time comes, but we've made a commitment to also bringing adults together, bringing the humans together to put their eyes on those plans and just be really collaborative and thoughtful about that.
And I know that there's a lot that goes into these reconfigurations, and when you're looking at new schools and when you're looking at renovations of old schools, how does that change the safety standards that are going to be put into these particular schools?
Oh, that's a great question. School safety is something that is on my mind every single day, and I know our principals feel the same way. We have done really good work through the 2015 bond, ensuring that each of our schools have secure entrances. You really can't get into one of our schools during the day unless you come through that process in the main office. But there is more work we can do to ensure that our schools are safe. So the older the school, obviously, the more challenging it is to ensure that you have a secure facility. And we're going to take some action through this bond to just continue advancing school safety and security. We want to update our public announcement systems so that folks can hear, our staff can hear a message if it needs to go out. We want to install some impact-resistant glass at key locations across our schools, put in an emergency response system similar to fire alarms that we have now. This is a comparable system that allows first responders to arrive in a fraction of the time should an incident happen. And the design of the two new schools that we're proposing, the new elementary and the new middle school, we will absolutely consult with school safety experts and design those schools. We want input from teachers and students and families. We also need input from those who are experts at school safety.
Academic excellence is something that I think has always been attached to Midland Public
Yeah.
Schools. Even when I was growing up in Beaverton, I'd always hear about the specific benchmarks that our schools were hitting here in this community. And it's absolutely incredible to have that as a regional asset, but then as a local asset for those of us that live within the city limits and those of us that live within Midland Public Schools boundaries. So how does this change any sort of academic expectation, and what type of effect do we anticipate if this bond proposal is accepted by the community? What type of effect would it have on academic excellence here?
Yeah, I guess I'll start by just bragging for a minute about our school system. You know, we have such amazing teachers, administrators, staff, and students and families. And a real point of pride for us is that when students get into our high schools and have experienced Midland Public Schools, they make it to 11th grade. They take that SAT exam, which is that culminating exam. We score in the top 3% across the state. And I think that is something incredibly noteworthy. I think it speaks highly, again, to our school, our staff, our students, our families, and our community who really values education. There is immense research that speaks to this connection between high-quality school facilities. Safe, healthy, modern learning environments do directly impact student well-being and student academic success. There are empirical studies out there that prove that time and time again. And there is emerging research that speaks to this connection of staff well-being and success and retention. And we know that's something really important in our community right now, this endeavor to ensure that our community can retain our citizens, attract new citizens, and really develop them so that we can be the best we can be. And I believe that good quality school facilities are an important part of that. I want to be clear, though, it doesn't minimize the impact that a teacher has. Again, the research is abundantly clear that of the factors we control at school, the teacher is the number one determinant factor in student success. I think it's important that we give teachers the ideal conditions so that they can be their very best, and then our students can be their very best.
And there's so much merit that goes around that academic success and that drive for people to want to live here and making this a place that people want to call their community of choice.
Yeah.
There's another side of this, too, though, that gets talked about a lot on this particular show. We talk about the emotional infrastructure of a community quite often, which is being if you love a community, you will take care of it more.
Yeah.
You'll kind of stand up for it. You'll champion it, and you'll be more involved. And sometimes those factors are invisible, and people don't even understand
That's a good point.
that one of those most important relationships in their life is the one that they share with their community. Yet that relationship is rarely thought of as a relationship. But when people are around people that they are enjoying their time with, or they're enjoying the place that they're in, they're a lot happier.
Yeah.
A lot of times they're a lot healthier. And there's study after study after study. And our Mayor Maureen Donker referenced that at State of the City last week about that idea of love and how love really plays this idea of health in a community. So I want to talk a little bit about the vanity side of this as well.
Sure.
And obviously for our conversation, we're going to focus a lot more on the academic excellence and those things that we can measure. But sometimes there are some unmeasured that go as well. So have you had conversations about what new schools or what a transformation of this school district would involve in terms of that emotional connection to this community or the way people would feel about those schools?
There's a couple different ways I can take that one. So I'll just share first, which is most on the surface of my thinking right now, is, this idea that when families or individuals are choosing, considering Midland as a place to live, you come check it out, right? And maybe an employer takes a prospective new employee on a tour of our community and they see all the awesome things that we have to offer. Beautiful downtown, all of these wonderful places where folks can gather, the Center for the Arts, all of these amazing facilities and opportunities. And then they want to see healthcare. They drive by and they see a beautiful modern facility with the data to back it up. And then they drive by our public schools, and they are not as wowed when they drive by any one of our particular schools because, again, they're older. 64 is our average age, as I said. It's only after they really dig in and understand the academic success we have, the opportunities we provide with music, art, world language, career tech ed, all of these amazing clubs and extracurriculars and co-curriculars and athletics that I believe citizens say, oh, yeah, this is a place I choose to be. I think there is something about having a modern facility that can attract folks to our community. And to, you use the word vanity. I will agree. It's sort of what's on the surface. It's what happens inside that matters. It's those healthy learning conditions, those ideal classroom environments where students can really flourish, and that interaction and connection among teachers and students that really is where it happens.
We recently had Jacqueline Leapart on the show, and Jackie went to cook, and every time Cook came up within the show, she'd, bust a little tear. We'd pour a little water out for Cook.
Yeah.
But I'm curious, when you have these conversations with people that have this attachment, and we talk about bringing Northeast offline, We talk about bringing Carpenter offline and these changes that are going to happen within our school district. What do you think about those people that are like, but I have such an attachment to this place and it's just so important?
I can totally relate to that. I have myself a true significant attachment to my family farm, to the house where I grew up, to the barn where we used to milk cows. And I'll never forget the moment I drove in the driveway for the first time after we tore down the milking parlor. I'm not known to be a crier. I literally sobbed in the driveway. And I remember talking with my dad about all the memories of growing up there, all the good times we had. And I'll liken it to a school being closed, right? You really reflect on all of these special moments. But it really is about the interactions you had with other people that made that special. The walls are the walls, right? The gym is the gym. It's the connection you had with people that really is what's connected to your heart. And so I just keep reminding folks of that. We can create community. We can create special moments, really amazing, wonderful relationships in a new school, just like we did in this one. And we're not dismissing the importance of that. Northeast has this beautiful mural when you walk in the door. And I've had several folks ask me, what are you going to do with that mural? And my response is, I don't know. I don't know if we can somehow move that to a new school. But if we can't, let's do our best to honor everything that mural represents in this new school. And we will do our best to honor that legacy, that culture. What makes Northeast are the people in it. And we can just carry that to a new school for sure.
That's absolutely touching. And I think it just points out the power of people, right? The memories that we make together and what we can accomplish. This video will live for a long time on YouTube, but you and I will remember it from a perspective of sitting right here and talking. And I think it's the memories that are made within a space. So
I think so too.
It's absolutely amazing. I want to bring up a very specific slide that breaks down the proposal itself in dollar amounts. And I think this is the conversation I've seen the most about.
Yeah.
And we're talking about these dollar amounts, and we've already mentioned it. You see it, and it's kind of that idea of sticker shock, right? It goes off the top of your head like, what are we getting into? So I want you to break this investment breakdown for us or take a look at it. And you can use the mouse if you want to go to any specific slides as well.
Okay.
But I want the audience to be able to very specifically see what we're talking about here.
Yeah, I'll just kind of talk you through this one then. So it is true. When you first see this information, it does make you pause for a moment. It is a $285 million investment in our community that we're asking for our community to step up. And I won't, I'll just say that we don't take this lightly. I've had a few folks say, do you actually know what that means for me and my family? And I say, I don't, but why don't you tell me? I'm really interested in hearing about it. I recognize that this hits every family a little bit differently. And we are at Midland Public Schools very aware of the socioeconomic diversity in our community. We see the children in our schools every day. Right now, we have about 37% of our students who qualify for free and reduced lunch. So we approach this with a real sensitivity. It is $285 million projects, and it is a $3.25 mil increase over the current $2.95 mils that we have. It is broken down. There's a slide that you can see here that has this broken into various categories. Again, in our effort to be really open with our community, the bulk of this is new construction. It is the new construction of an elementary, which is about a $54 million project, and the new middle school, which is about an $84 million project. Construction is expensive. And that is just the truth. And prices have increased significantly even since we opened Central Park Elementary. There's a lot of other really important elements in this proposal, though. And so I want our community to understand it isn't just about the new construction. It is also about the infrastructure upgrades that we want to make to our other schools, the career and tech ed upgrades that we want to make. We know how important those programs are for the success of our students. There's bus purchases, technology upgrades. There's improvements to arts, athletics, and elementary play spaces that are all incredibly important to our students and our community. There is a lot of important projects in this proposal. I'll offer on this slide, you can see how we've broken this into a 4-series approach. This is the best approach, not only because it's the financial model that is the most cost effective, it also allows us to really focus intently on the work that needs to be done in that moment. We're going to start right out of the gate with safety and security upgrades because our community continues to tell us that is the most important element, ensuring that students are safe when they're in our schools every day. We'll begin the design of the new elementary. Again, our needs there are the most significant. I shared before, we're out of space. We have a need for more space. The preschool building needs to come offline. Building that elementary as a priority was the board's decision, and we stand by that. The new elementary is slated to open in the fall of 2029. And again, we want to be really intentional, have a lot of collaboration in that design process, be very thoughtful and intentional about those boundary adjustments and working with our community when we make those decisions so that we can all feel as good as we can about that change. And as soon as that elementary is open and underway, we're going to start digging in and designing that middle school. The middle school is slated to open in 2033. That is about what our estimate showed, that we can sustain Northeast into the future without any significant investment. So the timing works out well in terms of this 4-series approach.
And that new middle school will go where?
Great question. The current parcel where Northeast is large enough that we can stage the build right on that same piece of property. So we, as our community, have watched this happen with Greater Midland at the community center. Same concept. All of the security measures that need to happen, appropriate fencing and guards so that construction can happen. Students will still come to Northeast for several years, and then when the time is right, we'll transition over to that new school, and the old Northeast will be torn down, and that part of that piece of property will be repurposed.
And we talked about the elementary will be north of town?
Yes.
Do you have a location for that right now?
We don't. It's a little premature for us to be purchasing property, but we've done our due diligence to know that there are viable options and there are pieces of property for sale in the general vicinity. It's important, too, we've been in touch with the city of Midland to understand our access and opportunity to access certain municipal services that are necessary for a modern elementary school. So when the time is right, we'll take some action on that.
And when we have conversations about what this community investment really means for households.
Yes.
I love that we have a breakdown here of
We do.
So people can really kind of visualize a little bit about what that would mean for their particular household.
Yeah, and as I said, it's important to us that every family, every homeowner really think about what this means for them. Again, we approach this with sensitivity, knowing that it is an individual choice. And also at the same time, asking for this investment in our schools and our students and our community. So you can see on this slide, if we look at a home that has a market value of $200,000, it's a taxable value of about $100,000. And that would indicate that that homeowner would pay about $27 per month for this 3.25 mil increase.
Awesome. And if anybody's listening to this, Penny is putting it out in plain language for you right now, and we appreciate you listening. Is it okay if we share these slides online as well?
Absolutely.
And I think you have shared them already.
Yes, I was just going to say.
So we'll share your link.
They are on our website. We also have a pretty robust FAQ document. And in that FAQ document, there is the specific ballot language, and there is also a formula that folks can use to calculate what this means for them based on their own home value.
So if you're listening in your car, feel free to wait till later and go ahead and look that up. Well, we appreciate you listening. Penny is stating it in very clear language for you, though.
I'll also just offer, Kevin, there is an email address and a phone number on the website, on this webpage, and on all of our materials, and we are personally responding to all of those inquiries and making sure that folks have the information they need.
Awesome. So talking millage rates in our county, where does this put us at with other schools within our area?
It's a great question. And for us here in Midland County, Midland Public Schools is at the bottom of that list with our current 2.95. We have two schools that are at a 7 mil rate, and then Coleman is a little bit less. Even when we get to 6.2, should this proposal be supported by our community, 6.2 still doesn't put us at the top, but it gets us a little more in the ballpark and have that ability to continue modernizing our facilities.
And we understand that sometimes those comparisons to smaller school districts isn't necessarily a direct comparison that makes sense. But when we compare ourselves across the state, what does that look like?
Yeah, I think that has been more striking to the community as I'm out sharing this information. I showed this slide and I could sort of see eyes widen across the room. The schools you see on this particular slide are schools that we often compare ourselves to academically. These are schools, I mentioned we're in the top 3% based on SAT scores. Many of these are also schools that sort of hang in that same area. They're also schools where our families are traveling for travel sports, for music, art, and other endeavors. And those families come back to our community and say, why don't our facilities look like they do in, pick your school there? And I have to let them know this is part of why. We've taken really good care of our facilities. We maintain them well, but we have not been levying debt, issuing mills to our community like these other communities have. And you can see on this table that some of these are 6, 7, even 8 mills towards school facilities, towards bonds and or sinking funds that allow them to do those deep renovations, new construction, and many of these have been doing that for decades. So this is part of our story as to why we have older facilities. Really thankful that our community supported that 2015 bond and we were able to build Central Park Elementary. This 2025 bond is proposing that we take that next step by building another new elementary and a middle school and really getting us advanced in our modern facilities.
And speaking of next steps, what is the next steps for this proposal?
Yeah, we're doing it right now, Kevin. We are out sharing information with the community. I feel a real obligation to ensure that we are sharing factual information across our community, which is why we've done so many presentations. We've worked hard to have accurate information in the Midland Daily News, on social media, certainly on our website. It is just inform so that citizens can make their best choice when they go to the ballot on May 6th. And we're going to keep sharing information up until that day.
That's awesome. So everyone knows May 6th, that's
May
the date
6th.
that folks can vote. Just get as much information as you possibly can. And hopefully people are going out there with some knowledge to the ballot box.
I hope so. Absentee ballots are out already. So, and you still have time to request an absentee ballot or register to vote if you haven't.
Awesome. Check your mailbox, people, because
Yeah.
this stuff is on its way or it could be there already.
Yeah.
So we appreciate you talking about the ballot proposal.
Yeah,
And you
happy
touched
to.
on something specific earlier that I have a little passion around. I want to talk a little bit more about how this will affect those specialty curriculum areas. You talked about arts. Well, I took 4 years of yearbook class and turned it into a career. So
I
I
love
want to
that.
know,
I
what does
love
that look
that.
like from Midland Public Schools perspective and working with those students that have some interest that might be outside of the quote unquote norm. I don't want to say that, but everyone's kind of got varying interests across the board.
What's interesting is I think part of what makes us special at Midland Public Schools is the variety of opportunities we provide to students for curricular experiences. We have art, we have music, there's just so much. World language, PE health, career tech ed. So part of this proposal is to modernize many of those learning spaces. Our band and orchestra and choir rooms need a deep renovation at our high schools and middle schools, and that is part of this proposal. Our art classrooms need some renovation as well. Our career and tech ed, I mentioned that before. We're really excited to think about how we can bring those into a modern age. Those programs are meant to match industry standards and prepare students for entry into the workforce, as well as entry into apprenticeship, certificate programs, community college, and university. That's one of the beauties of CTE is that it can get you anywhere you want to go. But we need to ensure that our facilities really match those standards. So there is, there's a little something for all of our students in this proposal. Every single school will be touched by this bond program. And I think that's something to really be proud of, that we're really attending to every single facility and the experiences of every single student.
And within Midland, what I find so cool in Midland is that people have varying different hobbies and things that they really fall in love with. And there's a lot of passion areas within our community. And we have a very passionate swimming community here as well. And I'm sure their voices have been heard as well in this process of the ballot proposal. So can you tell me a little bit about how this proposal might take them into consideration?
Yeah. Do you mind if I expand that a bit? Because
Of
there were
course, go
actually
for it.
3 groups that have a lot of passion for their areas. And these sort of came to conversation through this planning process. So I'll maybe start and end with swimming. The first is our aquatics community, our robotics community. So we have amazing robotics programs through the first program, elementary, middle, and high school. So many students engaged in this. Actually, last weekend we had an amazing event over at Dow High for our high school teams. These students and adults who support them need space. We are out of space to the point where we are currently renting a facility here in town. And that lease will be up soon. We need to find a more permanent home. One of the initial considerations in the bond planning was to build a robotics facility. Don't quote me on this, but I think it was around $14 million. We have identified a building here in town that we can purchase for a fraction of the cost. We fulfilled our commitment to that group to say, we can't put this in the bond program, but we will find a solution for you.
Are you turning Oscars into a robotic? No, I'm kidding.
Didn't even think of that.
No, I'm kidding.
So we do have a solution for our robotics teams and all the amazing adults who support them. The other group that came forward really seeking to, engage about the space that they need are the theater and arts students and staff and families. They love Central Auditorium. It's a beautiful facility. However, there are key performances each year where either the stage isn't big enough or the audience space isn't adequate. Okay, so wouldn't we love to have a new auditorium? Yes, the board had to consider, though, again, we're already at $285 million. We really can't, in good faith, go beyond that and put that out to our community for support. How can we find a solution outside of this bond proposal? So we've dug in. The Midland Center for the Arts has been a really great partner. We're engaged in conversations about how we can rent space from them for these key performances. We've received really great feedback from our community that is the path forward, finding these community collaborations to maximize space that we've already invested in and is such a gem. So we're excited to see that through. The third group, as you mentioned, are our aquatics friends, and pool space is a thing. So the new middle school that we're proposing will not include a pool. Northeast currently has a pool. That was a tough moment for us all to reconcile. The aquatics community, holistically, here in Midland, doesn't just include our swim teams and the Dolphins Club. It includes infants and toddlers who are learning to swim, and it includes some of our older citizens as well. And so we're trying to look at this through the lens of a community solution. The board, again, felt adding a pool was not a financially responsible decision at this point in time. So how can we come together with the City of Midland, who owns Plymouth Pool, and Greater Midland, who has a beautiful new pool in their facility, and us, and the Dolphins, and really think about what a viable solution can be. There is an aquatics committee that's been meeting and will continue to meet. We believe that we can have a path forward that really maximizes, first off, this idea that we can do this together as a community, and that we can find an ideal solution to meet the needs that we have for training lanes for all of our swimmers. I'm confident we're going to get there. I think it's just us staying connected and continuing those conversations.
Awesome. So there's just so much moving here. I just unbelievable that you can even remember so much that's going into this. I know you're living it day to day, but
though. It is
it's
my
so
life.
important.
It's so important.
So important. And you mentioned teachers quite a few times as we talked. And regardless of anything going on with facilities, you said that the most important thing is that teacher in that room. And, we have this space of talent development retention here in Midland that we are really trying to work on. And it's not just a Midland thing. I think most communities are working on this. And we are in competition for talent all the time.
Yes.
And I thought it was cool. I went to a new teacher event maybe a month and a half or so ago.
That.
I think it was at Northeast.
Yes, it was.
Maxwell's Midland showed up and said, hey, here's how you can find events.
Great.
What was neat about that is I was out with some of my people out at a restaurant, and I saw a group of those teachers that I think met at that particular event. So just tell me about your process of getting new teachers involved in the community and how you're really bringing them into this ecosystem and this place we call Midland.
Well, I want those heart glasses back because that's not.
Here we go. I can set them right there for you.
This is how I feel about our teachers. And I want to be clear, when I say teachers, it's really our entire team. We have amazing support staff. We have school psychs, social workers, speech pathologists. Now that I started naming them, I'm going to forget one. And then it's, how that goes.
Yeah, you'll get an email.
Paraprofessionals, bus drivers, like everyone who is part of our team matters. And students know that, it's those connections again that matter. So lots of love for our team at Midland Public Schools. But to answer, your direct question, I think that is incredibly important to create not just a sense of belonging at work. If you're at Dow High or you're at Plymouth or you're at Central Park, we want you to feel a deep connection to the team that you're most immediately working with. But we also want you to feel that across our organization, and we want you to feel that in our community. I wholeheartedly believe that when you feel those connections, you start to understand that you are Midland, right? You don't just live here, you are part of Midland. And I believe that makes your roots deep and makes you want to stay here. So we're just working hard to engage our new team members in all the endeavors that we do at Midland Public Schools to help them see what they can connect with and engage across our community, and then to really build this network. There is nothing like this bond you have when you're going through something together with someone. And being a new teacher is hard, especially when you're in a new city, in a new school. And I just am I'm thrilled to hear that you saw this group out together. That just brings me great joy.
Well, it just harkens back to that idea is, we're so much more than our role, and we're so much more than titles we put on us. So you're a superintendent, I'm a communicator, my friends that work at restaurants, friends that work retail, friends that police officers, firefighters, whatever. We're all one of one, and we all have this very specific role. But unless you feel that one of one, you're probably not going to interact with the community in the same way. And I think that much like the way that you went through this particular ballot proposal, regardless of the outcome, there's a roadmap to be looked at about how to bring people into a community and bring people into the fold. And if we're not trying, we're not doing.
Yeah,
so
I
thought it was just so cool to see that event, because there's not a lot of places doing onboarding in that way that takes onboarding from just the inner workings of their specific second place of work and brings it out into those third places where they can share space in the community. So if people can hear about Dow Gardens, if people can hear about the Wellbeing Coalition, if people can hear about Cultural Awareness Coalition, Public Arts Midland, what we're doing with Max Loves Midland, the Center for the Arts, so many places, Greater Midland, Dow Diamond, we can go on and on for places where people can gather and come together and make themselves a part of this community. So I just thought that was really neat. And I just wanted to say thank you for that.
Well, thanks for recognizing that. We have an amazing team. Our curriculum team really puts together these monthly sessions for our new staff. And each month there's a little something special that they're doing, learning together, growing together, connecting. And this was such a special opportunity to have our community partners in.
And we talked a lot about bonds that other people are building. What about the bonds that you're building right now through this work? I mean, you're working tightly with a lot of people in order to really bring this bond proposal forward. How is this going to affect you as a community member moving forward?
Well, first off, I mentioned this in the beginning of our conversation. I feel I have come to know our 7 school board members in such a better, clearer way than I did before. I just see them digging in. I see the care and passion they have for Midland Public Schools, for our students and staff, and just have such admiration for them as individuals and how they've really come together as a team. Aside from that, just being out in the community, sharing this information with a variety of groups and community leaders throughout our community has been a real special time. And as I said, it's not always agreement. I love it when there can be discourse, when we can see that maybe we have a different perspective about something, but we just stay engaged and keep kind of working through that until we can understand each other's perspectives and see that really we're after the same thing. There just might be a slightly different pathway to get there. So I just feel abundantly grateful and very joyful that we have the kind of community we have that's willing to listen and engage.
And as we look forward to the future of that community, and this is a question we ask at the end of every episode, you as a Midlander, what do you want for our community when you look forward?
I think it's more of that, Kevin. Just these opportunities, these places and spaces and opportunities where people can come together, even if they don't agree, and work toward connection, communication, dialogue, perspective sharing, and understanding. I'm not seeking this moment where we all have to be on the exact same page, but I think creating opportunities to build connection and understanding, especially right now, is incredibly important. I love that we have community members who have strong convictions, strong values. I just want people to be able to come together and express those in respectful, appropriate ways. And again, to just keep working together to make our community better. I think we can absolutely continue to be the kind of community where everyone can exist, even when we differ in opinion and ideas, but know that we're all still working to make it the best place it can be. And that's what I want for us.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Oh,
we
thank
really
you.
appreciate it. One more question. Where can people go for more information?
Absolutely. So our website at Midland Public Schools is www.midlandps.org. Tons of information on there. We have a special page, and you'll see that link right on our home site. We also have clearly linked there emails and phone numbers where you can call or email, and we will, as I said, personally connect with you to make sure that you have all the information that you need. We have a YouTube channel where you can find some of these videos that we've recorded about the bond proposal, as well as previous school board meetings where there have been presentations. We have, if you really have an hour and you really want to watch this, we actually have fully recorded a couple of our presentations of the slides that we referenced today.
Awesome. Well, thanks again. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. This has been wonderful.
Awesome. And thank you for joining us today as well. It's been another great episode of the Maxwell's Midland Show. Make sure you're checking out maxwellsmidland.com. There's been over 3,500 events posted there. What are you waiting for? Go find your time in the community. Go find your people. Meet some new friends and fall in love with this place the same way that both Penny and I have. Definitely encourage you to get out there, check out those resources, watch some past episodes, or if you're just watching clips, go ahead and watch those. We'd love to get you to learn a little bit more about the people here in Midland. We're kind of building a cool little human library through this series, and we're going to keep on doing it. So make sure you keep coming back over and over again. A lot more fun episodes on the way. I'm sure there'll be a lot more weird movie talk, sports talk, but of course, talk about Midland. So, as they say, if you build a tridge and it's not enough, build a pridge, I guess. I don't know.
I like it.
There you go.
Let's go with it.
Subscribe wherever you consume media. Maxwell's Midland is your entertainment, resources, and collective improvement hub for Midland County. Plan your next adventure in Midland at maxwellsmidland.com.